Hello, and welcome to Chapter 8. Chapter 8, we'll be talking about product, services, and branding strategy. So, in this chapter, our case study is Krispy Kreme. And Krispy Kreme has become a really big name, of course, in the donut business. But the mainstay for many, many years was Dunkin' Donuts. So, how was Krispy Kreme able to make such a name for themselves? Little things matter. And I remember one year I was visiting a friend, my best friend actually, in New York, and we were on the highway, and all of a sudden, she said to me, "The light's on, Sasha, the light's on." I'm like, "What light? What is happening?" And literally, she crossed 4 lanes of highway to get to the off ramp. And I'm like, "Why are we going crazy here? What's happening?" The lights on. For what? Krispy Kreme. The donuts are fresh. We gotta get one. She had seen, we were driving on the freeway, and she had seen a Krispy Kreme light on and literally risk our lives for the good of Krispy Kreme. Why do I mention that story? Because it shows how crazy people can get for Krispy Kreme. But it shows the impact Krispy Kreme had with their branding strategy. This idea that they would show their audience, they would show their clients what it was like to build this brand and create this donut literally from scratch all the way to what you get in the final product. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was part of their branding strategy. They sell over 7 million donuts a day. That's a lot of That's a lot of donuts, right? And people drive significant different distances to get to Krispy Kreme. That's because of the brand. They have really made a name for themselves with the brand, with different tactics, different strategies, and that has allowed them to be a very successful household name. So we're gonna get into what it is to really brand a product. And when we talk about a product here, we're not just talking about um, a product in the traditional sense of a product. We're also talking about our services. And when you think of service, think of a product wrapped in people. So that's always the definition and explanation I give, because you can't access that product without first interacting with people. Let's say you're thinking of a hotel room. Well, you can't get to the hotel room without reception checking in, housekeeping, the restaurant. There are a whole bunch of people or other people in the hotel, either customers or employees you have to interact with in a service, and that's a service. So it's a product wrapped in people. But then a product itself can be anything, right? Um, you can have a simple product like an Oreo cookie, but you can also have a destination as a product. A candidate for political office is a product. A celebrity is a product. An athlete, a product. A university, a product, right? So all of these are entities that lend themselves to some kind of branding. And I think that's important for us to recognize. Now, when we think of a product, there are 3 levels to that product. The first level is going to be your core benefit. What do we mean? What do we mean by your core benefit? Your core benefit means if you take away all of the brand name, the feature, what is the core essence that you are providing for your consumer? I always give the example of a car. The core product at the center of that car is transportation. This vehicle is getting you from location A to location B. Now, whether you take a Kia, you take a Ford, you take a BMW or Audi, you're driving in a Tesla, you're still getting from point A to point B. And all of the features, etc., make that ride more enjoyable. But at the end of the day, you're getting from point A and to point B. And that is your core. Now, actual product, brand name, so that Tesla name, all the features, the auto drive, how far it can go without charging, all of that has to do with your actual product. Then comes your augmented product, how you deliver, how they deliver the product to you, how you order it, what kind of additional warranty and extra services that product comes with. All of these things matter, because when we are talking about marketing, we're not just marketing the core product, we're not just marketing the actual product, we are wrapping all of these things into the marketing equation, and I think that is very important for us to recognize. I mean, even if you think of a simple product or service like Starbucks, again, a cup of coffee, but Starbucks charges what, 3, 4, 5 times the price of a McDonald's cup of coffee. And by the way, McDonald's beats Starbucks in blind taste tests wherever they do them. So what is that telling us? People are not just going to Starbucks because their coffee tastes good. Their coffee's okay, mediocre at best. It's all the other things that you're getting from Starbucks that really draws you in. So it's something to think about, right? So when we think of products, there are basically 4 types. Let's start off with convenience. These are the types of products literally that you get from the convenience store, that you can get them everywhere. They are widespread. They are not they're mass produced. It's not a specialty. You buy them frequently. Think about ketchup. Think about bread, right? Some basic things, even gas. These are some basic things that you get all over the place. Not much distinction. Mac and cheese is the example they have here. Then you have shopping products. And when I think of shopping products, I think of things like jeans or, sandals, or I think of a lot of clothing, but even things like furniture, or, you think of things that you shop around for, but it's not super hard to get. And maybe you have preferences of one brand over another brand, but at the end of the day, they are relatively convenient and available to acquire. Then you have specialty products. Now, your specialty products, that's going to take you a little bit further, right? You're going to drive a distance for that. So a car is going to be a specialty product. A house is going to be a specialty product. Maybe a trip is going to be a specialty product. It requires a significant amount of investment in time and energy because you're looking for specific things. Of course, you're looking for specific things in a jeans as well, a pair of jeans. But a specialty product is not as available as your shopping products. They tend to be really exclusive in terms of the distribution. So you're not going to have a Tesla dealership on every corner. You might have a Gap store in every mall, but you're not going to have a Tesla dealership or an Audi dealership or even like a Lamborghini, etc., etc. And for all of these specialty products, they know their target consumer very well, and they are very specific in how they target these consumers. And because often it is a high-end product that you spend a lot of money for. And so the example they have here is diamonds, which of course, that's everything. And the thing I like about what I like about the diamond. So if we think back about De Beers, they came up with this whole "a diamond is forever." Because what you don't probably think about the fact is that when we think of ancient times, when we think of medieval times, nobody was sporting a diamond, right? People were sporting jewelry in terms of emeralds and rubies and, sapphires. We liked colored gems back in the day. And so when De Beers found these diamonds, when they found diamonds in land that they owned in South Africa and so forth and so on, they were like, what are we going to do with these diamonds? They literally came up with a campaign to market diamonds. A diamond is forever. Because when you think back, before De Beers came upon this idea, if you look back at your grandparents or maybe your great-grandparents, people did have diamond rings, right? What did they have? They had a single band. And there was the promise of engagement where people made an arrangement, you had a word, you had an understanding, and then you got married and it was a single band. It was not a engagement ring and then a wedding ring. And so what does that say to us? That says to us that they came up with this whole campaign. And in order to be successful, what did they have to tie it to? A man's love for a woman. And the suggestion was that the bigger the diamond, the bigger the love, right? It's one of the most incredible campaigns in the history of time. And I bring this up because I think when we have specialty products, a huge part of that specialty is the marketing. The marketing creates the specialty in the minds of the consumer. I mean, who died and made Louis King? Why is a Louis Vuitton bag more expensive? Why is an Hermes bag more expensive? Who made them so special? The marketing. And so, but at the same time, even though the marketing is making them special, the product itself has to have some unique characteristics, right? So yes, Tesla is doing some amazing advertising, but the product itself has to be outstanding and has to be different than the competitors. Okay. And then you have your unsought products. And I always joke and say unsought products. I mean, think of a cemetery plot. Nobody's necessarily waking up in the morning and say, you know what I need to get today? I just feel as if I need to have a cemetery plot. I don't have one, and I feel as if I really need to have one. That's not how we think about things. So the cemetery plot, for the most part, is an unsought good, an unsought product. So you have different classifications of products. And on the one hand, you have like consumer products, then you have industrial products. And of course, the industrial products typically tend to be an input into a consumer product, right? So your industrial products are going to be what is sold in a B2B market, and then you're going to have your consumer product. For example, I'm thinking about changing out the windows in my house. And so I was passing in a new construction area. They're building new houses, and I saw Plygem was the name of one of the windows. And so I looked it up and I called them, and they said, well, ma'am, we don't sell to the public. We only sell to builders. So you would have to find a builder or contractor that we will sell to, but we would not sell to the general public. You have to have like a contractor license, or you have to be a building firm. And so that's a B2B, but they are selling to these builders who will eventually sell a house to me, right? And so that's an input good. So a lot of industrial products may be like that. And then we have, you know, the classification of an organization can be a product in terms of the branding, a person, a place, etc., etc. So the other thing that we have to think about is, you know, how do we market organizations, places, even ideas? How do we market ideas? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, a few years ago, there was this challenge where people were dunking other people with buckets of ice water. No, not the smartest thing. And yet, for ALS, it raised more money in, I think, 3 or 4 months that the people were dunking other people with ice water than they had raised in the history of the organization. Okay, so as much as you and I may think, what the heck, why was this a good gimmick? It was not necessarily the smartest gimmick, but it was a successful gimmick. And so the way we market ideas and concepts or causes even, that's also a very important marketing campaign. And in fact, we're going to be in campaigning season soon. And political marketing is a very lucrative business. I encourage you, if you're into marketing, look into it, because it is a very lucrative business. So I do a lot of research in tourism, and tourism marketing is very profitable as well, because people are marketing destinations. Think about how much money Colorado has made off of marijuana tourism. And that's a huge marketing initiative for them. So when we think of products and how we brand, we have to think about what aspect are we going to highlight in our branding. And often we think of what are the attributes that this product, this service, this organization, this destination has that you can really hone in on and market to the wider population. And then we come up with the branding, we figure out how the packaging falls in line with that, we come up with appropriate labeling, and then we set the product out for the population. And when we're thinking of attributes, there's so many different ways that we can go with this, right? We can go with the quality, we can go with features, we can go with style and design. So maybe I might focus on the fact that this shoe is leather, it's maybe finest leather, or I might focus on the fact that this shoe has a lining inside that makes it so comfortable you think you're walking on air. Or I might feature the fact that all of the latest, entertainers are wearing my shoes because it is latest style and fashion. So all of those are different ways that I might decide to share with the public and market along the lines of an attribute. Or I might really focus on the brand. I want you to buy this product because it's, I don't know, it's made from Kenneth Cole, or it's Michael Kors, or it's Coach, or it's Hermes. So the brand itself is what is selling the item. The fact that it's cute or not cute is secondary, but the brand name is what is making the sale. And of course, it takes years to build up a brand. And a lot of times you build up a brand with a particular attribute or a particular feature. But even after, once you've done that, sometimes you can sell a product just based on who created the product. It may not be that the product itself is attractive. It just may be that we like the brand. And then packaging. Packaging is huge. Packaging. We talked a little bit about that before in chapter 7, where I was telling you guys that one study said that women feel sexier when they are wearing, they're carrying a Victoria's Secret bag in the mall than when they are not. And that's part of the packaging for Victoria's Secret. This is what I always tell people. If you don't think packaging is important, imagine someone gave you your diamond ring. For all the ladies out there, imagine someone proposed to you and gave you your ring in a takeout, thank you plastic bag. You know that plastic bag that if you look, you see the red lettering, thank you. Maybe they just gave that to you and said, hey, let's get married. This is what I'm thinking of. How would you feel, right? So packaging matters. I mean, think of the packaging you get for clothing and how it makes you feel, or when you open up that pair of sneakers and the nice packaging. The other day I got a pair of shoes and I really fell in love with the packaging. So I think packaging is so important, and a lot of brands really pride themselves on having distinguished packaging, differentiated, easily identifiable packaging. And Palm, that brand of juice, their packaging is the bottle. That's very easy to identify their brand. When I think of, there's a brand of water, and I'm forgetting the name right now, but it's a tall, Smart Water. Smart Water, when you see that shape of a water bottle, you know it is Smart Water. Or think of perfumes and the bottles that perfumes have, and that is the packaging. But packaging can also be dual purpose, right? You can have packaging for branding, but you can also have packaging for functionality, because maybe the packaging protects, maybe the packaging insulates, etc., etc. You also have labeling, and particularly in Europe, labeling is very important because people read labels. In the US, people don't read labels as much. But labeling is a huge part of the branding process because, for example, some brands at Whole Foods, on the label, they give you all of this background information about whether or not this is a societal brand, meaning this is a brand that thinks of people first and foremost and the planet. So on the packaging, they will tell you whether it's organic, whether it is sustainable, if it is sustainably sourced, and so forth and so on. So that is also important. And then we think of product support. And product support is critical. If you don't think product support is critical, then you should never visit an Apple store, right? You should always just buy things online from Apple. And think of the role that the Apple store plays in the Apple purchase. And then you understand product support. It's a huge thing that you can call into Apple and they will go the extra mile to make sure that you get the best service possible. And then when we are talking about branding, there are different product lines that we have to think about, right? We have to think about, all of these products that have this similar function. So whether we're talking about Tide or we're talking about Era or we're talking about Chair, they're all detergents. So they are all they have different price range, but they're all selling the same. They're all essentially the same product. And so when we talk about line stretching, we talk about in this line, how many different products do we have? Do we have a really expensive? So Tide is like the flagship, right? That's the most expensive. And then you might have lower down, you might have Era or some other brand, and so forth and so on. And they all have different audiences that all want to buy detergent, but they're buying different ones. So I'm a Parasil. I'm not buying any kind of detergent other than Parasil. My husband, when he washes his clothes, he likes to use Woolite, right? When I'm washing my clothes, my kids' clothes, I often would use Tide. So it all depends on what your needs are, what your function is. So then you might have that stretching when I'm adding all up and down the line, cheaper, more expensive, etc., etc. But when I'm within a price range, so Tide, but then I have Tide Sport, I have Tide with bleach, I have Tide with Downy, I have Tide. I always say the only thing they don't have is Tide with weed. They have every kind of Tide out there, and that's line filling. Within the present price range, you're just adding all of these options, right? And so then, what's your product mix? So you may have a line of detergents, but you may also have a line of clothes softeners. You may also sell detergent additives, and that might be like your OxyClean, and that might be like your Downy Unstoppables. And you might also sell some other household cleaning goods. Maybe Mr. Clean is in there. Maybe you have Pine Sol, right? Those are going to be your product mix, the assortment of products that you are available. I'm going to put up a slide that shows an example of Procter and Gamble and their product mix, and sometimes their various different lines. And then within your product mix, you have to look at what's the width. And so within any line, so you have a detergent line, you have a clothes softener line, you have, you're selling everything from household sprays, cleaning sprays, to detergents, to bleach, to, right, all of those different things. That's going to be your width. But your depth now is within any one line, how many different versions you have. So you have Tide, you have Era, you have Chair, how many different types of products that you have that are serving the same purpose and function. How deep is your line? And then what's your mix, right? And I think some companies, Procter & Gamble, has such a wide mix. You know what, another example would be Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has such a wide mix. But then you have some other companies, like they sell 2 or 3 things, and that's it. That's what they do. They don't sell anything else. So it all depends on what it is you're about and what your capabilities you have in terms of manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. Some people just stay close to home. They only sell a small number of products, but they just do it and do it well, right? And then you have brand equity. And so brand equity is an interesting concept, because brand equity, essentially, think of if you had a generic product. So let's say you went to the store and you went to Rayleigh's or Safeway and you just bought generic cola and you paid $1 a can or 50 cents a can. Let's say 50 cents. And I would say to you, how much more would you pay for a Pepsi than that generic cola? And you would say, I probably pay $1 more. And then I would say, how much more would you pay for a Coca-Cola? And you say, oh, I'll pay $1.25 more. Well, then you're not comparing Coca-Cola to Pepsi. You're comparing Coca-Cola to generic. You're comparing Pepsi to generic. But by doing that, I get a true sense of the value of Coca-Cola, the value of Pepsi. And I could even say, well, you would pay more for the Coca-Cola. Therefore, Coca-Cola has a stronger brand equity than Pepsi. But I'm not asking you how much more than Pepsi you would pay for that Coca-Cola, or how much more than Coca-Cola you would pay for that Pepsi. I am saying compared to just a generic brand that you don't care about from Adam. It doesn't really matter. You don't have any affinity for, because we needed something. It's like we needed something that has no ties, something that is basic to compare all these brands to give us an understanding of how people see the brand. And having a strong brand equity is important for a brand because it allows you to charge extra for certain things. Tide can charge more than the dollar store brand because they have stronger brand equity. And that brand equity, not only does it allow you to charge more, but it gives you stronger kind of a backing against the competition. And that is also very important because then you become less susceptible to price. And so as you think about your branding strategy, there are some things that you have to think about. You have to think about your positioning. Now, your positioning is the place this product or service occupies in the minds of the consumer. So not where you want it to be, but what space it currently occupies. And so how am I positioning this brand? Am I positioning this brand based on certain attributes? Am I positioning this brand? So I tell you, so Toyota does that, right? They say that their brand is reliable. They you can drive their car for 300,000 miles, and that's just the beginning, and so forth and so on. Or do you say, and that's one way to do it, but that's not as effective. Or do you say, this is not a car. This is this is a performance machine. This is not about whether or not this car can get you from point A to point A. This is how you feel when you get into this car and get behind the wheel. That is a stronger, more powerful kind of branding because it taps into the emotions and it taps into belief systems. And when we say belief systems, what a man's car is, or what an effeminate dress is, or what what is a car that shows that you have arrived, that you've made it in life. All of these are kind of belief systems and also a bit of emotion. And we know that emotions sell way better than beliefs ever could, right? And so MasterCard, they have said, that whole "it's priceless" campaign was based on emotions. Dove with their campaign for real beauty. People got tired of seeing these models that are size 2 and size 0 when I think I mentioned before that the average American woman is a size 12. So the campaign for real beauty taps into how women feel in their own skin, and that's far more effective than just saying Dove is going to clean your skin and clean your skin well. And so then companies also had to come up with really good names, right? Because the name is a huge part of the brand. I mean, we kind of gone quirky with this now, right? Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Instagram. What the heck does that mean, right? What on earth is YouTube? So the idea is that, but I think the quirkier the name is, the more distinguishable it is. It's the more we're able to differentiate from the competition. I mean, what on earth is TikTok or Snapchat? What does that mean? It has no meaning. But it does now, right? And so the idea is that you want something that will not be confused with other things. And so the more unique the name and the more the name doesn't have any existing connotations, the easier it is for you to create a connotation, for you to create something in the minds of the consumer. And then that makes it easier to register, to make legal, and so forth and so on. And then how can you sponsor? When we talk about brands, so there are different types of brands, right? You have your manufacturing brands, like your Tommy Hilfiger, your Michael Kors, and so forth and so on. Then we have your private store brands. So your private store, that's going to be Gap, that's going to be Old Navy, that's going to be Ann Taylor, right? Where I'm not going to go into JCPenney and see Ann Taylor or Gap. I'm not going to go into Nordstrom's and find Gap brands in there or Ann Taylor in there. So those are your private label brands. Then you have your licensed brands, which of course your Nike, your Adidas, and they will allow you to license the brand. They sell that ability beyond them manufacturing their clothing. They also sell other people the license so they can manufacture and slap the logo on it. And then, of course, you can do co-branding. So that's when this person teams up with somebody else. And a lot of times, like athletes and celebrities will co-brand, right? And it can work. Oprah she has what I call the Midas touch from a branding perspective. If Oprah endorses something, immediately it's on the bestseller list from a book perspective, or it is going to sell out in terms of in the store if it's a bag or if it's any kind of product. When she does um, her giveaway, whatever she put on that list to give away to her audience, people used to lap it up. Same thing with Ellen, right? When Ellen has her Christmas time giveaways, those products become hot sellers in the market for Christmas gifts. And then you can have things like, when I'm developing my brand, okay, I want to extend my line. I want to come up with a new, with different minor changes. So, Tide with OxyClean, Tide with Downy. Now I start putting Tide with, you just come up with all kinds of combinations of Tide with. That is a line extensions. Or when the brand comes up with completely new line and come in a completely new category. So imagine Procter and Gamble is this is a good example. Disney, the Marvel. So now that Disney has Marvel, that's a completely different. That's an extension of their brand. So it's or Star Wars. That's an extension of their brand. So you can have one company, but they have multiple brands, and these brands they can buy them, they can acquire them, or they can build them from the ground up. And companies manage these brands in different ways. Some companies have one brand manager, and they have a brand manager, and each brand manager will have multiple brands under them, or each brand manager might just have one brand, and that's their focus. It all depends on the company, different strokes for different folks. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is services. And I really like services because services are such a unique aspect of the business. Now, the chapters here say 74% of our GDP is actually closer to over 80, like about 81% of our GDP is coming out of services. And that's everything, right? That's from tax services to travel agents to PR to dry cleaning to barber and hair salons, all services. It's like I said, a product wrapped in people. And services are a little bit different, right? Because services tend to have characteristics that are different to products. Imagine for a service, these are your 4 characteristics. So first, inseparability, meaning the average consumer can't separate the service provider from the service. When I am lecturing to you, I represent the organization. So I represent faculty in the business school. When you're interacting with somebody in the finance department, you say, oh, I don't like those people in finance because of your one interaction with the finance department. So it's often difficult if you have a fall and you go to Denny's and the waitress is mean or rude. I'm not going to back to Denny's. Those people in there have an attitude. We tend to lump. Then the perishability, we also, as you're producing a service, is consumed. So what do I mean by that? As I am lecturing in class, boom, you are consuming it as I'm seeing it. When you're interacting with that police officer, as you are talking to them, you are consuming it. It's different from a product because a product is made and then it's put on a shelf, it goes through quality control, and then it's consumed. So they can catch if there's an error and they can throw that batch out and make a fresh batch. But if you are you go to finance or you go to the registrar's office and you're having interaction with them and maybe it's going south, they will not stop and say, okay, let's stop. Maybe they say, all right, let's start over. But you're not going to delete everything you just heard, right? So It's important to recognize as you produce a service, you're consuming. The variability piece is that's crazy in a service. So you've been having lectures from all your different professors, even professors that teach the same topic, teach it in different ways. And that's why students always like, professor, which one is the easy professor? I say, I have never gone to school here. I don't know. But we all, as professors, teach in different ways. Even if we were teaching the same thing, we would all teach it in different ways. That's the variability piece. And last, intangibles. So what do we mean by intangibles? The surroundings. As consumers, we use the surroundings as proxies for thoughts that we're going to have on service quality. What do I mean by that? You walk into a doctor's office, you see a Harvard degree, you say, oh, this person is smart. They must really know what they're doing. I think they're a good doctor. Just based on one diploma. You have no idea if they're a good doctor. Or you walk into a car dealership and it's so clean and you think, oh, they are so professional here. They have a wonderful high-end waiting room. You think, oh, this is so nice. Versus the opposite. You go into a space and it's filthy. You're like, God, what a dump. They must not do good business, right? So that's something to think about. And a lot of times companies really try to differentiate themselves from the competition from a service perspective based on that. What my environment looks like. What can I offer in my people that other competitors don't offer? How can I give certain types of service quality? How can I make sure that my customers are the most satisfied, and so forth and so on? And then, of course, we always have to consider being socially responsible, whether we're talking about a product or we're talking about a service. Are we predatory? Meaning, do we go after vulnerable populations, or are we immoral and we're doing things that are problematic in terms of how we acquire our customer base? Or do we have the best product warranties out there? You know, Nordstrom has a policy where you could return it anytime. My uncle, my husband's uncle, bought a pants at Nordstrom, and years later, he paid $300 for a pair of pants, and years later, he took it to the cleaners and they destroyed it. So he took it back to Nordstrom. He's like, this is not a good quality. If I don't know what the dry cleaner did, but they thought they were dealing with a certain quality pants. I paid $300 for this pants, and Nordstrom, what did they do? They just gave him a new pair of pants because they stand behind their warranties. We've heard the crazy stories about people returning old dead Christmas trees to Costco and Costco giving them their money back, right? Because they have warranties and warranties matter. And then when you go internationally, you have to think about, how can I maintain that service level when I go international? I have another uncle who lives in Trinidad, and he worked for the IMF in the US for a while. He bought a car here, he bought a Honda, took it back to Trinidad, was having problems. He was able to carry it to the Honda dealership in Trinidad and get it fixed under warranty, even though he had not bought it in Trinidad. So the kind of warranty, the kind of service quality you give is also very important. That's it for chapter 8. See you in chapter 9.